For countless female influencers, the camera captures every moment of their lives, but sometimes it keeps rolling when everything goes wrong. In this video, we're uncovering 6 tragic stories of women who unknowingly filmed their final moments for content. It was May 27, 2017, in central Oklahoma. Low gray clouds drifted eastward across flat wheat fields. The roads were empty except for a small line of storm-chasing vehicles heading toward El Reno, each carrying cameras, radio gear, and people who'd grown used to risking proximity for footage. Hannah Cruz, 24, was an adventure content creator from El Paso, Texas. She wasn't a meteorologist, but had spent 2 years filming extreme weather clips for her channel, building a modest following of around 5,000 subscribers. Her videos mixed local travel, DIY gear setups, and moments of genuine awe at the sky's volatility. With spring bringing some of the Midwest's most photogenic supercells, she arranged to join a small chase team for what she described online as a full storm intercept. In storm chasing, vehicles stay mobile but close enough to visual features, updrafts, inflow bands, and rotation zones without crossing into the path of hail or debris. Crews rely on radar, GPS, and radio updates, often juggling all 3 while driving. The equipment in Hannah's car included a dashboard-mounted action camera for interior shots and a second compact camera bolted to the roof. The chase leader, a former spotter, kept a Citizens Band radio tuned to warnings from the National Weather Service. On board, Hannah alternated between commentary and silence. That day, forecast maps showed a moderate risk area expanding west of Oklahoma City, with potential for tornado development by late afternoon. Some groups turned back as rotation tightened on radar, but Hannah's crew pushed ahead, hoping to intercept the southern edge of the cell for clear video. Hail began to fall, first pebbles, then golf balls. She adjusted the windshield wipers and laughed nervously at the sound. The radio mentioned a microburst signature, a localized downdraft capable of up to 90-mile-per-hour gusts. No one in the SUV acknowledged it as a stop signal. Footage recovered from the dashboard camera begins with Hannah smiling at the lens. Rain thickens, streaking sideways. The SUV rocks as the driver fights the wind. Then, a sharp metallic clang hits the roof, followed by a low, rising roar. The roof camera, blurred by spray, shows a wall of swirling brown air sweeping in from the right. The sound deepens into a violent howl as the windshield bows inward, fractures spreading across the glass. The SUV jerks left, tires lifting. Hannah grabs the dashboard, shouting something lost in the roar, her face twisting in sudden panic. The audio spikes into shrieking distortion as the vehicle is yanked off the road, flips once, then slams down hard. The last clear frame shows the cabin inverted in a haze of dust and debris. A second chase vehicle behind them immediately radioed for help, reporting that Hannah's SUV had rolled off the shoulder and down into a low field. When rescuers reached the site, the vehicle was upside down in a flooded drainage area less than 100 feet from the highway. Responders noted deep tire ruts and scattered gear across a 200-foot path leading to the final rest point. The driver and spotter were conscious but trapped. Hannah was found unresponsive between the front seats, her seatbelt torn. Investigators later determined a microburst had struck the convoy, its downward blast exceeding 90 miles per hour, scattering vehicles like toys across the plain. The incident was documented in the official storm report as a single vehicle fatality due to wind-induced rollover. Both cameras were recovered mostly intact, their footage synced to the radar timeline for analysis. In the weeks that followed, Hannah's mother stopped checking her daughter's YouTube comments, which continued filling with confusion and well-meaning speculation. The family deleted the channel quietly a month later. It was October 3, 2016, in Moab, Utah. The air was cool and dry, the kind of clarity that draws travelers to desert highways in early fall. One white van rolled slowly south, its movement steady, deliberate, a traveler documenting what would be her final morning alone. Sienna Park, 29, had spent the past 2 years living full-time in that van, a converted Dodge Ram she called Arlo. A former graphic designer from Portland, she'd left her studio job after burnout, chasing open space and a slower rhythm. Her YouTube channel grew slowly but consistently, admired for its long silences, subtle sound design, and unhurried views of empty landscapes. Her work emphasized minimalism, soft music, clean editing, and narration about solitude and quiet discovery. Sienna planned carefully, avoiding major highways for smaller scenic roads. Her van carried 2 mounted cameras, one on the dash facing outward for landscape footage, and a small interior camera aimed at her seat for narration. She preferred shooting in natural light, timing drives for when the canyon walls caught low sun. On October 3rd, she set out to capture mid-morning hues near the Colorado River overlook. Her previous upload, posted the night before, showed her assembling camp chairs and boiling coffee as the desert cooled behind her. She'd mentioned wanting one last slow drive before heading north. That morning, the conditions were nearly perfect. 68 degrees, clear sky, no traffic advisories. Still, locals often warned about blind curves on Cane Creek Road, where walls rose abruptly on both sides, leaving no shoulder. The pavement there was narrow, unmarked in spots, and bordered by loose gravel that could easily pull a tire off balance. A park maintenance crew had been repainting faded center lines the week prior, but sections remained faint. Sienna started her drive around 9:40 a.m., keeping the van's speed just under 40 miles per hour. She narrated softly into the camera, describing the way sunlight shifted across the cliffs. The video timestamp later matched her final phone location near mile marker 17, one of the tightest bends before the overlook. At 9:47 a.m., her dash camera captured headlights drifting into frame, a black pickup swerving over the center line. Its path didn't correct. The engine's hum rose into a growl as the distance closed. Sienna's hands tightened on the wheel, her breathing audible over the mic. She eased right toward the canyon wall, tires brushing gravel. Then, in a burst of movement, the pickup crossed fully into her lane. A deafening crack followed as its bumper slammed into her driver's side, crushing metal inward. The van rotated counterclockwise before striking the rock wall broadside, the impact folding the frame. The dash view went dark, a flash of white from the airbag flaring before static consumed the feed. A camper towing a small trailer roughly 200 yards behind the pickup witnessed the collision and stopped immediately, calling 911 at 9:48 a.m. Emergency crews arrived just before 10:10 a.m. The vehicles were wedged against the wall, both engines smoking. Sienna was found still belted in, the van's driver's side compressed almost entirely. The pickup driver, a 31-year-old man from Monticello, wasn't wearing a seatbelt and was partially ejected through the windshield on impact. Both were pronounced dead at the scene. Later examination confirmed his blood alcohol concentration at 0.18, more than twice the legal limit. The Utah Highway Patrol recorded the cause as vehicular collision due to intoxication and lane departure. Toxicology and event data recorder logs confirmed that Sienna had braked to 36 miles per hour, approximately 1.2 seconds before impact. In the weeks following, her channel still remained online, but her parents eventually set the uploads to private. Her van was released to the family a month later, the dash camera still attached, but its lens fractured. Months later, 2 friends from Portland completed her unfinished travel map. It was July 19th, 2015, in Charan Canyon, Kazakhstan. The wind cut steadily across the ochre cliffs that dropped hundreds of feet into the valley below. A small crew gathered near the rim, adjusting ropes and checking cameras. Jade Dawson, 26, had built her life around documenting risk. She and her boyfriend, Riley Moss, 27, ran a modest YouTube channel. Their videos focused on raw, unscripted adrenaline challenges, cliff jumps, bungee swings, and climbs with local guides in lesser-known spots. Jade, a former fitness instructor, had a calm focus that balanced Riley's impulsiveness. They traveled on sponsorships from small outdoor gear brands and ad revenue that barely covered airfare. But both were determined to make the next video more daring. Rope swings were their latest trend, cheap to rig, dramatic on camera, and popular among adventure seekers in Central Asia. The canyon swing setup was technically simple but unforgiving. It relied on a fixed main anchor secured to embedded bolts and a secondary tieback to a pickup truck for load distribution, with dynamic climbing ropes and pulleys that redirected force away from the edge. The drop measured roughly 260 feet, and the harness needed to handle several times a person's body weight at peak tension. Used correctly, the system created a long, graceful arc, the illusion of flying. But each element depended on proper load distribution and equipment integrity. Any worn webbing loop, misthreaded knot, or aging carabiner could turn the system catastrophic in seconds. They trusted the operator's reassurance that the setup had been used all season without incident. That morning, the weather was clear, though the wind occasionally gusted hard enough to rattle the truck's antenna. The group, 2 Kazakh riggers, Riley, Jade, and a translator, reviewed signals for the tandem swing. A smaller test drop using a sandbag went smoothly. Encouraged, they decided Jade would go solo first, while Riley filmed her from the rim. The crew debated rechecking the main line, but skipped it to keep the visuals up before the sun got too high for clean video. The operator clipped her harness into the main carabiner and stepped back. Footage later recovered from Riley's GoPro begins with Jade inching backward toward the edge, her harness secured and helmet cam blinking red. She laughs once. Gripping the main rope near her chest, Jade steps cleanly into the drop. The rope catches, swinging her out in a smooth arc over the canyon. For a moment, everything holds. Then the line jolts violently to one side. The camera shakes as the rope jerks again, strands twisting under tension. A faint cracking sound follows, the bar-tacked webbing near the carabiner beginning to fail under shear load. It happens instantly. The stitched loop tore free with a sharp, tearing crack, sending the main rope recoiling upward as Jade plunged out of frame. Riley's camera tilts wildly toward the canyon just in time to catch the loose end whipping through the air. Witnesses described her scream cutting short before she hit the slope, about 200 feet below. The impact sent a burst of dust from the ledge where she landed. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Riley started shouting her name, voice breaking as he fumbled for the radio. The operator, still frozen, finally grabbed his phone and called local emergency services. Rescue workers from the Almaty Regional Search Unit arrived roughly 40 minutes later after being notified through the park's ranger post. Rappelling down, they reached Jade where she had come to rest among scattered limestone fragments. The impact had been instantly fatal. Riley was treated for shock and superficial injuries after attempting to climb down unassisted. The footage, later examined by investigators, confirmed that the load-bearing sling had exceeded its rated life and that its stitching showed clear UV degradation. Authorities suspended all swing operations in Charan Canyon, pending a full inspection of local setups. The operator was fined under Kazakhstan's Administrative Safety Code, and the site reopened 2 months later with stricter oversight and certified rigging standards. Riley returned home and later filed a civil complaint through a local attorney, which was settled privately with undisclosed compensation. It was February 11th, 2018, on the southern flank of Mount Etna, Sicily. Thin plumes of steam drifted across the black slopes, illuminated by the pale winter sun. To the hikers below, the summit's distant glow looked harmless, but the crater vents were unstable, their heat pushing through the brittle crust with erratic bursts. Lorenza Bianchi, 31, made close-up travel videos exploring dangerous or rarely seen places. A native of Milan, she had spent years working freelance for regional tourism brands before building a following for her Extreme Sicily series, a blend of adventure clips and cultural features. Her tone was calm, composed, more journalistic than daring, which lent her footage a deceptive safety. Volcano footage, especially from Etna during active periods, brought strong engagement. Filming near Etna required skill and nerve. The terrain was loose scoria, brittle, shifting, and sharp. Cracks vented gas rich in carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide, the former heavier than air, and prone to collect in hollows where oxygen dropped without warning. Park regulations set clear exclusion zones during strombolian activity, typically 1/2 mile from any active vent. Most professionals worked with guides and portable gas detectors, but many freelancers operated without them, relying instead on intuition and handheld cameras. Lorenza carried neither that day. Her plan was to capture a close, cinematic shot of fresh lava emerging against the snow-dusted slope. That morning, she met 2 other independent travelers at Refugio Sapienza, both equipped with basic helmets and cameras. They ignored the advisory bulletin posted near the trail entrance, warning of unpredictable venting and heavy gas concentrations. The group hiked for 2 hours up the lower cone, staying out of sight of park staff. They crossed the final warning rope around noon, reaching a ridge about 500 feet from a glowing fissure. The wind had shifted slightly, blowing gas across the slope instead of up. The others hesitated, but Lorenza pressed on, narrating her approach into a handheld mic. The helmet camera from one of her companions later provided the clearest record. The footage showed a wide red glow and faint bubbling where molten rock pushed through the crust. Lorenza crouched, stabilizing her mirrorless camera just 30 feet from the flow. The wind dropped, and a hissing sound built beneath the ambient rumble. Then, a sudden burst. A pocket of trapped gas releasing violently sent a white-gray plume outward. The camera's exposure flared, then refocused as the gas rolled downhill, thick and fast. Within seconds, Lorenza began coughing and stumbled backward. The footage showed her swaying, hands on her knees, before collapsing sideways. One companion managed to drag another hiker away from the densest part of the plume. Lorenza remained motionless, half visible through the haze. When the cloud lifted, she lay face down, unresponsive. They tried to reach her, but the searing ground and rising gas drove them back, leaving them no choice but to call for help. Emergency crews arrived nearly 40 minutes later, alerted by distant hikers who had seen the plume. Rescuers equipped with breathing apparatus and thermal protection reached her position shortly after 1 p.m., but found no vital signs. The medical report cited asphyxia and acute inhalation injury due to carbon dioxide accumulation and low oxygen levels. Authorities later expanded the exclusion perimeter by several hundred feet and increased ranger patrols during active venting. Officials from Italy's Civil Protection Department classified the event as a localized gas emission incident. Many criticized it as another example of content made at the edge of recklessness. It was April 12, 2016, at a commercial land diving attraction several miles outside the village of Bunlap, on Pentecost Island, Vanuatu. The Imitation Tower was part of a tour operator-run site built for visitors, modeled after the traditional structures but regulated loosely under provincial rather than cultural oversight. Maya Thompson, 28, was a cultural travel vlogger from Wellington, New Zealand, known for her measured storytelling and respect toward local traditions. Her channel featured long-form videos exploring Pacific customs through the lens of anthropology rather than spectacle. She avoided over-editing, letting voices of locals guide the tone. She believed that authentic participation was the most honest way to document these experiences. The Naghal, or land diving ritual, fascinated her, a centuries-old practice symbolizing renewal and bravery, with deep cultural and agricultural meaning. Participants dove from wooden towers with vines tied to their ankles, timed precisely so that the vines stretched but did not break. The jump's success depended on measurements, vine moisture, and the soil's softness. The vines were freshly cut that morning, each selected for elasticity. In traditional settings, only local men were permitted to dive. But this imitation site marketed a safe cultural experience for visitors, male and female, under staff supervision. Maya, though nervous, agreed to participate after being assured it would be done safely under guidance. That morning, a small crowd of tourists gathered around the replica tower, with a few local attendants acting as guides. Maya was fitted with a vine by 2 men employed by the attraction. They tied it firmly around her ankles, checking the tension and stretch by hand. The vines looked healthy, supple, though they had been cut from a section of forest less shaded than usual, meaning they might have dried faster. Before the climb, Maya adjusted her microphone and explained to viewers that the authentic Naghal ritual on Pentecost was reserved strictly for local men, supervised by village elders. She noted that this version was a commercial operation licensed for tourists, an imitation built for demonstration, not ceremony. Maya adjusted her helmet-mounted camera and climbed the ladder barefoot, her breathing steady but audible. The replica tower looked nothing like the traditional Naghal structures further inland. Its scaffold thinner, its ropes lashed to modern hardware instead of hand-carved beams. What once symbolized renewal had become performance, stripped of ritual weight and rebuilt for paying audiences. Footage recovered later showed her standing at the edge of the platform, clutching the support beam. The crowd below hummed a low chant as she waved once, then stepped forward. For the first second, the fall looked smooth. The vine stretched, slowed, but then elongated slightly more than expected. The camera caught a harsh jolt, followed by a sharp downward pull. Witnesses said it looked as though the vine hesitated before snapping taut again. The deceleration was too late. Maya's body struck the tilled earth near the edge of the cleared landing zone. Dust rose, and the chanting stopped. Two attendants rushed to her side within seconds. A guide attempted resuscitation, while another ran to call for emergency help from the roadside office. The helmet camera fell to the side, recording muffled movement and distant voices. Despite immediate efforts, she remained unresponsive. Within minutes, the site manager ordered the area cleared. The tower was left standing, untouched, as officials arrived. Local police and clinical health workers reached the scene roughly an hour later, responding to reports from the commercial operator rather than the Bunlap community. The medical report cited massive blunt force trauma to the chest and neck, consistent with partial vine failure, over-dried fibers, and loss of elasticity. Her remains were handled according to family wishes, with assistance from provincial authorities and the Pentecost Area Council of Chiefs. The imitation diving site was temporarily closed for investigation, and regional tourism officials later cited serious lapses in safety protocol. It was December 8, 2015, near Harbin in northeastern China. Snow had begun to fall again after dusk, soft flakes gathering along the cracked asphalt leading to the edge of the abandoned hotel grounds. From a distance, it looked lifeless, yet a faint glow flickered from within, the glow of a phone screen going live. Lin Wei, 27, had built a modest following as a paranormal live streamer known for her quick humor and dramatic reactions. A former production assistant at a local media company, she left to pursue independent content focused on urban legends and haunted ruins around northeast China. Her broadcasts mixed suspense and improvisation, often weaving local myths with grounded explanations. Despite the eerie subject matter, her persona was playful, almost skeptical, using fear as performance rather than belief. Urban exploration in winter carried added risk. Floors frozen, support beams brittle with moisture. The abandoned Harbin Hotel, built in the 1980s and shuttered after a fire, was a known hazard. Local authorities had boarded entrances and posted warning signs about structural collapse. But Lin's goal that night was to film a live ghost corridor challenge, where she would walk through the upper floors alone while her companions streamed from a lower level. They planned to sync footage later for a short-form upload. The pair entered just after 8 p.m. through a service stairwell with a missing door. Lin wore a small chest-mounted camera and carried a flashlight with a wide beam to catch dust and motion. Her companion stayed near the lobby, reading comments aloud from a secondary phone. Lin's voice carried faintly through the live stream, laughing, teasing her audience, calling into the darkness. Her viewer count fluctuating between 45 to 50, egged her on to go higher, unaware of the real danger above. The upper floors, never renovated after the fire, had been soaked by rain and snow for years, rotting the subfloor beneath the carpeting. At approximately 8:27 p.m., viewers noticed a subtle change in her breathing. The flashlight beam shook, her footsteps quickened, and she began running, likely staging a fake scare. The camera's view blurred, and a sudden cracking noise cut through the feed. A deep impact followed by a short, guttural sound marked the end of the live stream. Her companion shouted and ran upstairs. His body cam later revealed the broken floorboards near an exposed rebar frame, snow drifting through the opening. Below, Lin had fallen nearly 15 feet onto rusted metal pipes. One had punctured through her abdomen, the impact leaving deep abrasions on her side. Rescuers arrived roughly 40 minutes later after multiple local viewers alerted authorities, some contacting local fire services directly, others flagging the stream through Duyu's report feature. Lin was found semi-conscious, but rapidly deteriorating from internal bleeding. The floor around her was slick with melting snow and blood. She was extracted using a harness and transported by ambulance to Harbin Medical University Hospital. But despite emergency surgery, she succumbed to internal injuries that night. Authorities sealed the hotel the following day and reissued safety warnings against live stream trespassing. Online urban explorer groups debated responsibility, with some urging mandatory safety checks before broadcasts. Lynn's family declined interviews, requesting her archived videos be deleted. Thanks for watching. If these stories entertained you, click here for more.